So how do we actually support Gen Z in the workplace? Well, I was recently on a client call, and one of the issues this client was facing is that their younger employees didn't seem to take initiative. They were constantly on their phones, and they'd often report issues too late. They also didn't pick up on many of the workplace expectations that this client expected of them. So I asked this potential client, when these young people join your organization, what kind of training do you offer them? And she looked slightly befuddled and said, well, nothing really. We just kind of expect them to have learned it all in university. And this was the start of opening the eyes of this particular client, because Gen Z are often labeled with lots of negative character traits. They're lazy. They can't be bothered. They're entitled. They're all struggling with mental health. They've got no resilience. But when we look at the data, it paints a completely different picture. So in this video, I want to highlight what and how companies can support their Gen Z employees on a day-to-day basis. Now, to understand how to support Gen Z, we first got to understand how they've grown up. And there's a great book by Jonathan Haidt called The Anxious Generation, which I encourage you to check out if you're a reader. I'll leave a link to that in the description box. But in this book, he talks about how Gen Z are the first generation to grow up with smartphones in their hand from the moment they're a baby to adulthood. And they went through their whole childhood and teenage years on these devices. And the data behind what this has shown shows a lot about how we should support Gen Z. And here's a stat to consider. Between 2010 and 2020, anxiety in young people aged 18 to 25 increased by a whopping 139%. Now that's an enormous shift in such a short space of time. And this anxiety doesn't stop when they leave education. It follows them into the working world. Deloitte did a study and they found that 40% of Gen Z feel stressed most of or all of the time. Think about that. 4 in 10 younger employees could be walking into work already feeling stressed. And I also see this in real life. When I work with teams and deliver workshops and there are younger employees in their workshop, they're often the more timid ones. They often start the sessions with lower confidence, maybe a little shy, initially less willing to speak up. And most of this isn't because they're not capable to speak up. They're not capable to be more confident. Of course they are. But growing up with devices has given them fewer opportunities to practice some of the social skills and some of the communication elements that comes with work. Speaking in a room or having slightly awkward face-to-face conversations, a lot of that got replaced by growing up with a screen. So they're already arriving to the workplace with less practice. And let's not forget the pandemic. Throughout some of the crucial developmental years of young people's lives, they weren't allowed to see anyone. So when you understand all of this, it helps you be a bit more empathetic to understanding how they show up in work. It's easy to look at a younger team member and say they're lazy, or they're quiet, or they're hesitant, or get frustrated with them. But in most cases, this isn't a character flaw. It's not them being difficult. It's just they haven't grown up in the same way as their older counterparts and haven't developed some of the skills that came with not being on devices. But the good news is confidence and communication skills can be developed. The younger generation can improve their confidence, they can improve their communication skills, they can improve the ability to take initiative, all with the right guidance. So what can organizations and leaders do to support Gen Z? Well, let's look at 4 key things to get started with. There's lots you can do, but we're just going to start with 4. The first is give them baby steps. Give them small, low-stake tasks and low-stake opportunities to achieve success and then build on it. Don't throw a nervous team member into presenting a whole presentation to the whole team and then expect them to shine. Give them guidance. Do this one-on-one initially. Let them practice. Confidence comes from small wins built up gradually over time. So create that opportunity for the younger people in your workplace. The second thing is to be clear about unwritten rules and rules in general. Rather than assuming they already know, make things clear. We don't know what we don't know. And some of these things might seem basic to you, but to Gen Z and the younger generation, they haven't experienced them. So they need to be shown and told. Let me give you an example about something that I didn't know. I was at a restaurant eating the green vegetable edamame. Now me, not having eaten it before, or not having been served it in the whole green shoot that it comes in, I just ate the whole thing. And as I got towards the end, I thought, this is a bit chewy. I can't eat this. So I took it out my mouth and put it down. I thought, whoa. Then I saw someone else taking the small soybeans out of the shell and just eating the soybeans. And I realized, oh, that's how you do it. Something so simple I had never been shown before. And we can't expect young people to pick things up if they haven't been shown. So teach them and do it in an encouraging way. It makes a massive difference. And the third thing is to give praise. People like to be encouraged. When something goes well, acknowledge it. Give them praise, but be specific. Don't just say, well done this week. Tell them exactly what they did well and why it mattered. How did what they achieved help the company or help the team? When you give clear and specific praise, that individual understands exactly what they did that was good, so they can build on it. And it's another way of continuously growing their confidence. And the fourth thing, and really, in my opinion, probably the most important thing, is to create the space to check in with your younger staff and your younger employees. As I mentioned earlier, Gen Z have higher levels of anxiety than any other generation. So we want to check in on their well-being and support them, whether it's a one-to-one check-in or a specific well-being survey to check in. We need to check in. And not only check in, but create a psychologically safe environment. Another study from Deloitte found that 3 in 10 Gen Z employees worry that their manager would actually discriminate against them if they raised concerns about their mental health. So a lot of your younger teams might be struggling and not saying anything about it because they're worried they might be discriminated against. So how do you support your team if they're not even going to share with you what's going wrong? Well, that's one of the places the Workplace Lens comes in. The Workplace Lens is a well-being survey tool that allows you to check in on your teams, whether it's your whole team or specifically just the younger generation team members. The Workplace Lens allows you to monitor this on a consistent basis, surveying your teams via a well-being pulse on a weekly, fortnightly or monthly basis, or having a more detailed well-being survey over months or quarters so that you can track their well-being throughout the year. It's a completely free tool to get started, and there's a walkthrough of how it works in the description box. So head to the description box to see how that works, and you can use that to support the well-being of your teams. Now, navigating supporting Gen Z and the younger generation can be difficult, and most leaders and managers don't have time to do it themselves. They often need support. And if your workplace wants support to set up programs to help build confidence, to help improve communication among the younger generation team members you have, head to the second link in the description box and get in touch around setting up some bespoke workshops that can support your people. But even if you never work with me, those 4 points will help you get started in supporting your Gen Z team members. And as I mentioned, confidence is a big thing when supporting Gen Z. And I've actually got a video on how to build confidence in your team. So to check that out, watch this video here. But remember, a happy workforce is a productive workforce.